Thank you
Britt,
so much for doing this.
Very welcome. I want to hear a little bit about what you're doing and who you are and stuff like that.
Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, so I started this podcast basically from hearing people's stories about being dyslexic or not being able to read very well and wanting to read more about Motherland and reading fan fiction and just not either being able to keep themselves awake, because a lot of people suffer from like when reading makes them tired or their eyes heavy.
Yeah.
And so one morning I woke up really early and I was like, you know, it'd be great if we can turn these fan fictions into audiobooks. And
Wow.
so this little idea started rolling, and now it's turned into this whole giant beast of a podcast that's been received really well by everybody. So it's been really fun to do it, and people are loving it and people are enjoying it, and I enjoy doing it and making it and producing it and getting this whole team to work with me. So that's pretty much where it came from.
What a great inclusive way. And
Yeah.
like thinking outside the box around how we can
Well,
bring
thank you. Yeah, it was really like,
know?
I didn't think it was going to take off at all. It's like, you know what, I'll just read like fan fictions and put it on. And then people were like, oh my God, here's my work. Like, here's my fiction that I wrote. And here's my, my 30 chapters. Here's like one story you can do. So I very quickly, I got like 30, 25 authors to join, and they were like, you can use anything you want. And I was like, great. And I was like, how am I going to do this by myself? There's so many stories out there, that continue the Motherland saga and that delve deep into everything that surrounds Motherland Fort Salem. And then I started doing auditions for readers to come on board, and it got very serious very quick.
So you got into that place where you're like, now you're going to audition for this.
Because I wanted to, because these authors put their heart and soul and their time into these stories, and they're really great. So I wanted it to be, good quality, good content for people to listen to, like they actually would listen to an audiobook. Right. So everything is just, we've been really just trying to make it inclusive, like any shipping, any pairing, any people, anything of the show. We put in there, and I have 8 readers currently that are reading for this. I know, yeah, we update every day. There's stories coming out every day. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That's
Thank
so
you.
Cool because it brings things to life. It has people who may not otherwise be able to engage in a more personal way with it. And the chance to do that, and that's so cool. That's why it's fun doing these things, because it's like,
so fun.
God, people are so creative.
Well, thank you.
It's so nice to hear how people are creating,
Yeah. So did you know of fan fiction? Like, did you know it existed?
I did. Okay. And but what you're doing with it is like, a nice addition to what's going on. Yeah.
Because I know that I think a lot of people have like this weird view on fan fiction. Honestly, I think they are like, that this is just weird. Like, people are writing weird stuff, but there's just so much great work out there, like that really either continues the show, like people started writing after the show ended and continued it, or they like completely undressed it and then put it back together in a completely different way. And it's like so creative. There's so many great stories out there. And I think that that's one of the things that I want to push with what I'm doing also, is like, I want to make people see that it's beautiful art in a way, and not just people writing silly stories about a show that they love.
Yeah. And that's where, like when you think about, okay, I mean, the old Shakespeare saying, there's nothing new under the sun, Horatio. Right. And there isn't. Everything is like a reconfiguration of something, right, so exactly. It's like, we have original things, but everything is a thread pulled from something and then put together in a unique way. And that's where, what you're doing is just going, okay, there's the thread of this and the thread of that. Now let's put it, our people are saying, okay, let's put it together in a unique way. Yeah. And that's all this is. That's all Motherland is. That's all any show is, or the spinoff, or how it's a little bit different, or, when you go from one country to another country, it's like, take something like The Office. It's like, well, we don't want it to be the UK. The US has to take the premise of these characters, but make it a little bit different. Like, so it's great. And it's very cool because then it sparks a different imagination and someone will go, oh, let's make a show about this. Let's take these threads and then, propel that forward.
Yeah. And it blows my mind to see what people do with it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're like, they take these characters and put them in completely different situations than what we're used to.
Right.
And it's so surprising to see that they can still stay true to the character, but it be a completely different setting or situation they're in.
Yeah.
That's like amazing. Like I said, like that's why I'm mainly wanting to do these interviews, is to like give back to the listeners and the creators of these fan fictions, because they're so amazing. And this wouldn't exist without them. And I tell them that in my podcast too. Like at the end, like I always give credit to the authors, the readers, everybody that's involved. And I think the show will remain big because of them continuing it, and them, like, it might have ended, but it won't end for us.
Yeah.
I think that's what's beautiful about, the creativity of this fandom. So yeah, the fan fictions are really just keeping it alive at the moment.
Yeah. Well, kudos to everybody, and anything that sparks imagination is right.
Yeah. Willa Collar is actually in about 204 fan fictions herself. I didn't know if you knew that, if you ever looked into it or whatever. Yeah. And I think a lot of the times they delve very deep into either Raelle griefing for Willa, and they really go in deep and dark places about that, not only losing her mother once but twice. And like really go into that. And other times she's in completely different universes, and she's always a doctor 99% of the time, or a medic. And it's really interesting to read. She's just really a character people really love to write about in their fan fictions, because it's such an interesting relationship that she brings.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's so cool. I'm sure you've heard me say this before. I when I first encountered Willa, I was like, please don't make her like a reprehensible character. Please, like, let's find some, let's find kind of why, the why.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, she's just like, kind of.
Yes, kind of.
You said it, not me, but yes.
I said it. Yes.
But it's true, right? And so, like what you're talking about, even with the fan fiction, it's like, it's like, that's a version of what happens in shows anyway. It's sort of like, I mean, think about how in different shows people have to pivot, or let's say, an actor leaves and goes to a different show or something like that.
Yes.
What do we have to do? That was never part of their storyline, but now we have to add this whole universe behind them to make this one choice make sense. And so what is going on with the fan fiction? It's a mini version of like what happened with the show, and very much what happened with Willa.
Exactly. Yes, very true.
Willa was an evolution, not planned.
Right, because she wasn't planned, right? That wasn't a thing.
No, she wasn't. And so, when I first got Willa, it was like, okay, here's a part. Great. I'll just do my part. And then it was like, the writers were saying, so what if? Right. And then all of a sudden, Willa gets this whole like journey that wasn't actually part of the whole thing. And it's like, it's sort of, it's interesting how writers sometimes put the cart before the horse. They're like, okay, we're going to write all this stuff, and then eventually we're going to make it make sense. As we move forward, it was like, well, what was driving this? How was that driving that? So I really feel as though Willa is a character that has evolved from the premise.
Oh, yes.
And
I know for a fact that's why people love her.
They're fan fiction.
That's why people love to play with that character, because you can go so many directions with Willa as a character. You can really go and keep her this dark kind of like, what do we want to do with her? Or we can go back to like her being a mother to Rael, and like what does that do. It's really amazing the levels they go in fan fictions with Willa. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of Willa as a character, and I know that I've said it to you, but obviously this is the world of fan fiction. So
Yes.
everything is possible in the world of fan fiction. There's no boxes, there's no limits, there's not anything to keep us from going down a spiral on Willa.
Right.
My main thing is we really don't know a lot about Willa growing up.
No, we don't.
And I wonder, like, how did she grow up? Did she have siblings? Was she like this? Did she have strict parents that held her back, or like were they supportive of what she was doing? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and even as I talk to, the writers and of the show and and talking about her, it's it's not really established. And they're like, we didn't really establish it, and we have thoughts about it, but it's kind of whatever people think it is. Like it is a cool character because there's so much imagination to it that added to it, and so when talking with them, it's like just the sort of general premise was that that there's like she's from that long line of healers, so that is part of her lineage, and likely from just a really like not a great, well, I mean, not a very affluent part of the session, let's say. They were probably a family with not a lot of means, living in the session, a little bit run down, and her female relatives, I mean, they would have been in the army, and and we were talking about like who she was, and it's like, Willa not unlike myself, if you would speak to any of my family, they will all remember my rebellious days. And it was like, yeah, she probably was rebellious.
I can totally see that.
It's like kind of streak in her, and I'm like, I can personally totally relate to that.
That's awesome.
I look all like I'm wearing hearts now. But
I know, it's amazing.
Like I gave my parents more than one headache. So
didn't we all?
Yeah. But it was, but it's also that thing where sort of the generation of growing up that Willa would have grown up in is not one where that's overly explicit either. It's sort of like the inner rebellion, and you do little rebellious things, but it's not like, you're just like,
it's not full out. Everybody.
Yeah. It's that inner sort of drive.
Right.
That stupid little cold is still hanging on. I'm like, come on, get over it. It's that that drive, and and
we see that in Rael also.
Very much. we do. And it's this like willingness to make decisions, and this willingness to sort of kind of put things on the line. And I think joining the army, there's not a choice. I mean, that's what was like, there's not choice in joining the army. It wasn't an option for witches not to join. But that doesn't mean that she's going to do things and acquiesce. I don't find acquiescing is part of her personality, or she doesn't do it willingly. She has to really come to that decision. Which is also why the role of Scylla is such a great counter to her, because it forces Willa to see things that it forced her to acquiesce on certain things because she didn't bring her home. She didn't bring Rael home. But then that also, and life and maturity and everything that she's gone on, has done, and everything has sort of forced her into going, okay, I have to acquiesce to the situation. So what are we going to do about it? And that's, that's growth. It's not a bad thing. But I don't think that's like how Willa starts in life. Like, by any stretch.
No. I always imagine.
I don't know if that answers it or.
I mean, that's the thing. There's no wrong or right answers here because it's, again, it can be anything. It can be, that's the beautiful thing about fan fiction. Again, like it can go anyway. So there's no wrong or right answers here. I always imagine.
What are your high level thoughts? Like, what do you think?
Honestly, I think, I truly believe Willa had a sister.
Oh, and Willa has, yes.
Yeah. Like, and that they got into some trouble back in the day. And I mean, this is me.
Yeah.
Like the two of them, just like, again, the couple of headaches for their parents, most likely.
Yeah.
And my thing with Willa is like, I don't think she actually wanted to join the army, but like you said, she had no choice.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me how she was forced to join the army and then go through it. I mean, she was in there for a while before, escaping in a very dramatic way. But yeah, she just there's so many things about Willa that are just a mystery, and I can go down a whole rabbit hole of Willa, but I just see her as not a carefree teenager, but definitely one that had so much fun. And it wasn't until the army that all kind of changed for her.
Kind of like a little shit disturber without, yeah.
And then the army got around and it's got like this authority, and it's like her kind of bucking against that, like didn't really want to do that authority thing.
Diana in a bow.
Yeah, like you can't put me in a box. I mean, and we see that in Raelle as well. They're like, I don't want to be here. I think this is stupid, but I'm here. And now I have to deal with it. And that doesn't always go well.
Well, especially when you come from this idea of being a healer, like you're coming from that angle.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, well, you need healers in war, of course. Right. But the being forced to fight part, that's
because it's counter.
Like, you have the Red Cross. They're not on the front lines. They're helping. Behind the lines, to heal.
Right. But also a healer in war seems so, what's the word for it? I can't think of it, but like you're fighting a war and you're healing people at this, like it's
such a dichotomy.
Yes, that's
you're not there to fight. You're not there to fight. You're there to heal, but you're forced to fight.
Yeah.
So it's
it's kind of a weird thing to be a healer
like
in the army. I mean, thank God they're there, yes, but like it's like an endless battle that never ends, and that's kind of like the thing that gets to anybody that's in that field of work.
Yeah.
What do you think about Willa's unit?
Well, I think that that there was a mix in the unit. I think that with her unit, Willa emerges always as sort of a leader in things, and a leader in kind of decision making, like, all things being equal, she would emerge, right, as countering decisions or fighting against decisions, right, or making the tough decisions to get people to survive, and that also creates acrimony with other people who have that same personality, right? Because it's control.
Yeah, absolutely.
You in a situation that is so untenable and unmanageable, trying to find things, it's sort of like life, it's like, what are the things that you can manage or control? Like, especially when you're living in chaos and everybody lives in some version of sort of controlled chaos in life, just life. And then, sometimes when you feel like, things are a little bit spiraling and it's like, okay, what's the thing that I can manage? It's like, that's it. I'm going to clean the bathroom because I'm
cleaning my house right now
of my environment. At least that's something I can do. Yeah. And I think, that's just a dumb little example, but it's like that idea of
Willa just probably starts cooking.
Yeah.
I'm cooking.
But it's like, what can you manage? And then when you have other people who are like that, that's when those types of personalities you know, you start to create acrimony. And then let's just look up at the authority. And it was like, why are you putting us in these positions? Why are you putting us in positions where, you know, it's this idea of like, is this necessary? Why are we being put at such risk? Who is making the decisions? So you're over here making, and you know,
making these calls.
I don't think Willa's a good employee, right? It's like, you're in your ivory tower making decisions, and I'm on the front lines, and your decisions are stupid.
You're like, just talking, and we're doing it.
You know, it's like the thing, you don't see the impact of your decisions,
right?
And so I think that's very much Willa, and I think, you know, she's not one to back down. She's not one to back down from the unit. She'll fight, but you also need allies, you know. So I think she would find her niche.
That's awesome. Thank you. Do you think she had that sisterhood feeling though with her unit, like Raelle did with Abigail?
I think so. Oh yeah. I think that, you know, there was a core group for her. Like she's that lone wolf that can do it, but you know, you do need support. You do need support. You cannot do things alone. You just can't.
Yeah. Do you think she had a hard time after faking her own death and finding it again in people?
Yeah. And I mean, look at where she swung to. It's like, you know, to become the leader of this cell and, you know, put these people together and fight. And, and I think, you know, sort of, you know, they say you become what you hate. It's a little mini version of that. It's like, I hate that we're doing this, so now I'm going to fight you in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you're not careful.
Right.
You hate something so much.
Blinded by it almost.
Yeah. And dealing with things in a certain way, especially habitually, it does become a habit. And what does she know? She's a product of her environment. She knows how to fight.
She knows how to fight, and that's what she'll continue to do.
She knows how to strategize, and she knows how to fight. She's good.
I mean, she's perfect for the spree, obviously, for that cell. I mean, you can't have a better person in your corner than Willa Collar at that point.
Right. Like she's the
fight your battles for you, except she's doing it again, but now for a different side. She's fighting those battles again for someone else.
Yeah.
And that's where she probably got blinded and was like, this is way better. And then maybe realized eventually, like, this is not much better than what I've been doing.
I think it's, well, yeah, I think it's that eye for an eye thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to fight you the way that you fight. You made me fight. And it's like that thing. And I think it came from a, you know, to try to stop something and you fight the same way. It's like, you know, how long is that going to work for? How long is that going to work for? And
I personally love that moment where Scylla and Willa are in the back of the van, and Willa basically opens up about regretting joining the spree. I think that's a very vulnerable moment for Willa, for Scylla also, but for Willa to admit that out loud, something she so strongly believed in, and to be like, I regret this. Maybe it wasn't the right choice. You know, everybody makes mistakes. We forgive Willa for everything. We love Willa, but like, yeah,
I'm so glad.
Oh no, we really do. I really do. Yeah, no, totally. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful moment, and I think it's really, well, I would say maybe it's where the turning point is, where everybody's like, oh, okay, Willa. You know, this is Willa. Like, this is the honesty. This is the truth that we're seeing now. And I think that was such a beautiful moment.
I love that they did that because, you know, she is the personality to like fight and be like, well, okay, I know it's wrong, but it's the best of the wrong, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, I'm glad that they had that moment, because we can still like fight for things, even though we know that they're wrong,
Yes.
but they're what we know. And, like they say, it's like, is that the hill that you're going to die on?
Mm-hmm.
And Willa's very much the person to go, yeah, that's the hill.
That's the hill that I'm picking to die on. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's nice because she's like, is that the hill?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
maybe this is not the hill.
And that's a huge moment for a personality that is very much, no,
I know what I'm
and I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why it stuck out so much for me. Anyway, as a Motherland fan. I was like, well, that's just perfect. This is perfect right here in the character development also, because how are we going to go from here now that we know, who Willa is and what she's done, and how are we going to continue to fall in love with this character when we know the decisions that have been made. And so I think that, and with Willa dying too, even though I hated that she had to die, because I would have loved to see more of the Raelle and Willa, interactions after that, after she realizes her mom is still alive. And we got to see some of that in the mycelium and in the, all the other stuff. But I would have loved to personally see what would happen if Willa hadn't died, and continue to see
you and me both.
Continue to see her fight alongside, maybe at that time, eventually even the army against the Camarilla.
Right.
Because once Willa's in the mycelium, is she still Willa, or is she more the mother? Is she just a vessel for, that kind of like blurry, what is she at that point when she's talking to Raelle in the mycelium? Is she Willa? Is she not? Like, it's so vague.
It's that idea that the mycelium is getting poisoned, and that and it's this idea that, when you're most exposed, well, how can I say this? This is going to be a terrible example, but
I love it. I love it already.
My confidence isn't quite kicking in. So no, but it is going to be a terrible example. Please take this with a grain of salt. But like, in those moments where your kind of sensor goes away, like, you have a conversation, and then if somebody like has a glass of wine and has a second glass of wine, and then
familiar,
you find out those things about them that would be with the guard up, right?
Yep.
And so oops, I lost my screen. My computer hit something. Okay. And so you find that out, and it's like, what's interesting is, like, I think being in the mycelium is like Willa without filter. So what you find out is who she really is.
Okay. That's
like they say there's these old adages, like, you really want to know somebody, give them a drink and see what really
is the truth. Alcoholics never lie.
Or the other one I heard is, take them on a golf course, because it's like, it's really hard to manage your inner anger when your ball is flying everywhere. Are you calm under pressure? Do you lose your shit?
That's very true.
And so I think that the poison mycelium, what it did was it exacerbated the thing that is the most core thing about that person. And so it took Willa to her protection of Raelle to the extreme, so it's like, took it to a place where she would, she would blow things up again if she had to, like, she would sort of go down
do
that
anything
road, in that like fierce, almost in that vile sort of
very scary.
Very scary. And so it's like that thing where the core of it is actually not bad.
It's not
how far she's willing to go for it. That's the part that's super questionable.
And but like you said, probably with but then no filter.
Like, Will is like to go like, full DEFCON, let me screw you all over. It's like,
it didn't matter who it was.
And so it's not that she's irredeemable in the mycelium. She's just the scariest version of protection.
For
her
I
child.
love that. The scariest version of protection. I love that. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's such a good, I mean, you would know, but like, that's really great. I love that. Yeah.
So it's like, what does that thread look like? I mean, we already saw what she was willing to do.
Oh, yes.
It's like, so there's more? Like, you'd be willing to do more than that?
You would go even further than that? Yeah.
How random would it become? You know, and that's the part that the poison of the mycelium took away that sort of, you know, choice.
Any kind of barrier, impulse control was all just gone. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I love everything, but like, I love that. I never looked at it that way, that it brought out like the best, but in the worst way. Because that's basically what it did. It brought out the protectiveness, but made it scary.
Yeah, it's not like all of a sudden she was like, well, you're living your choices, you do you. You know, it's like, no.
No.
Committed
and also kind of that, like, I haven't been able to be there for you in so long, so now I'm gonna be like, be there for you.
I am there.
I am now here, and I'm never leaving again.
Exactly. Even if I have to like tie you in this bed, you're not leaving. You know, it's like and it's just like, whoa, okay.
I love the acting between you and Taylor in those scenes, though, in the mycelium and in that bedroom scene where Willa comes to her and she's like, hi, yes, I'm gonna protect you, I'm gonna keep you safe. And I'm like, wow, it was so well done. So well done. Loved it.
Thank you.
It was very good.
Yeah, it's you know, that thing about the care is like, I think the difference is that even though Willa was making the choices pre-mycelium, pre-poison, it was thinking, and Scylla got to see that Willa needed to think about what was important to Raelle as well as what was important to Willa.
Right.
And the mycelium took that away. It's like, well, I don't care if you want to go there. I don't care if you want to go out. I don't care if you're in love. I don't give a shit about anything you think.
Right.
I care about
what I want. Yeah.
So that's what, you know, I saw the poison of the mycelium doing.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite scenes that Willa's in is where she shows Raelle Alder griefing.
Oh, like the original story.
Where she does the song and like she's like, you know, this is how it started. This is how it was created. And it was so beautiful. So beautiful. And like Willa was so different than from we knew her at that moment, because, you know, she was in the mycelium and Raelle was visiting, I guess, so you put it. And, you know, the fact that, again, it's where I'm kind of confused about if it's Willa or the mother showing Raelle. Like, in what character did you show Raelle, or did you portray to show Raelle that griefing?
Yeah, I think that was Willa.
Okay.
It's Willa,
but
she is a mouthpiece for the mother as well.
Yeah, she's a vessel, so basically.
Like, it's kind of like, you know, it's like Matrix, right? Like you're plugged in. Right. So you have it all to access. So it is the higher purpose of what the mother show Raelle. And it's through Willa's lens. It's sort of like Willa's lens melded with the mother's lens, you know? And so it's Willa showing, because the one thing that Willa wants, I mean, it all comes down to, she wants to create freedom for Raelle. So giving her the knowledge, showing her where she comes from, showing her what this looks like, the why, you know, that kind of knowledge is freedom. And so it is Willa doing it with that purpose of the mother.
Who's also pushing her own agenda. It was a beautiful, like, I think a lot of people will agree, very emotional moment, because it not only unpacks Willa and Raelle, but also Alder for a lot of people in that. What do you think Willa's views are on Alder? Multiple views.
You know, Alder, I mean, Alder's, for her, I mean, she probably didn't give her a lot of thought.
Right.
Like in the early days.
She wasn't a fangirl.
But, you know, it's like, whatever. Right. But, you know, Alder becomes the face of the army.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, you know, that thing that you're feeling betrayed by your own is like,
so that's basically the face of Alder, is that feeling for Willa.
and I think that for Willa, it's seeing Alder. Alder is just the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah.
Alder is the ultimate betrayal, because it's like, how can you be so invested in fighting for the wrong thing?
Yeah. For the people that ultimately hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just is so, I mean, for Willa, the purpose for the army was never there.
Right.
It was, I had to,
yeah,
but the purpose behind it wasn't. And so then seeing Alder be so purpose driven with the army, it was just like, it's just betrayal.
Betrayal, utter betrayal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
see.
And she's just the enemy for that. I mean, that's
Right.
just, yeah. And so when you get to see, sort of fast forward, and Willa tell this story, and then
Right. That's why it was so mind
Alder
blowing.
Willa. Yeah.
It's like,
sort
this
of
is
like,
Willa showing Raelle, like, hey, this is why it was created. This is like the grief of Alder. So do you think that, like, Willa still being Willow, but plugged into the mycelium, that she like that might have changed her view a little on Alder?
well, they became more, the why it happened is clear. It's
Right.
what it turned into
Right.
that Willa doesn't like.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And once they become more purpose driven in fighting the bigger enemy,
Mhm.
they end up,
Yeah, I
they're
mean, basically, Alder's
working together.
also part of the mother at that point. Willa is part of the mother. So basically, they're one part going, all of them are going against the same enemy at that point.
Yeah.
So what were
Yeah.
your thoughts on the series finale of everybody becoming a witch?
It's like, it's an interesting choice.
Sure is.
I'm like, I see where, it's like sort of wanting to create that equal opportunity for everybody. And
Mhm.
it's also like, wow, that's weird.
It's I think there's a lot of different opinions on it. So I mean, it's a very interesting choice, I think, to make everybody witches. Don't know if it solves all of the problems so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's great that there's now 3 goddesses. That's fantastic, with Tally, Abigail, and Raelle being goddesses, and they're kind of just being dropped off in a world full of witches and say, figure it out, have fun. But yeah, I think that you think that that's what Willa would have wanted, loose from what the writers might have written, or what, like outside of the box fan fiction world thinking.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer that. I truly don't, because it's like, there's so many threads that could be pulled.
That's why it's such an open ending. Let's be honest, it's such an open ending. I mean, that's me and my friends talk about this a lot. Like, there's so many spin-offs that could come from this show. Like, even Willa's story. Like, let's dive into that. Like,
it is her story. Yeah.
exactly. Like, Alder, she's 300 something years old. Like, let's dive into that. Let's make a new series where now we watch Tally, Abigail, and the whole gang, and Raelle figure out what to do in a world full of witches. Does
Like,
the
what is
Camarilla
that?
just lay down and belly up and be like, okay, well, that's it, now we're all witches? Like, what? There's so much more to be told. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's mainly why it's so frustrating there's not a new season. But okay,
I know.
we'll
I
keep
know.
it alive, we'll keep it going.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing that happens with shows, right? It's like, oh, is it going? Is it coming back? Is it
It's so
this? It's like,
frustrating.
how do we create an ending for it?
Mhm.
Would that have been the ending if it had continued? Like,
Yeah.
it's so, or would it have what would the
I mean,
tweak
was
of
this like the original ending? Like, even if we had 8 seasons, was this supposed to be the ending where the whole world turns into witches? Like, that's, I mean, I know that I should probably talk to Elliot Lawrence about that someday.
I know.
But
I would like, when you do, let me know.
I
'Cause I would
will.
like to
I'll,
answer
I'll
that
shoot you a
question.
DM. Be like, it's happening. You
I
got
don't know.
questions? Let me know.
Let me
Yeah.
know, 'cause I am just as curious as
Yeah.
you.
I mean, and I
really
know that, you know, he's talked about books at some point, and I just like, if he needs help, I have some great writers. You know,
really need
at
to
some
ping him.
point.
You do. You need to like
I know.
send
I'm
him
trying. I'm trying. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. But
Well,
yeah.
and that's it, right? It's like, okay, so what does that mean? Like what, like how big does that go?
I mean, that literally could be a whole series on its own. Like, what does this mean now that we're in a world full of witches with 3
Like,
goddesses that are like, you
does it
know,
change? Does like, how do you,
I
where
mean,
does,
I cannot
how
imagine the
else
Camarilla
it?
being happy about it. You know, they're not like,
Yeah.
whoop, whoop. We're all
Yeah.
witches
Does
now.
everybody agree on things? Does it change
Yeah.
the way people operate? You know,
Does
in what?
it, like, how does it happen? Like, is there going to be a difference between born witches and made witches? Like, is there going to
Yeah.
be like, I mean, it's a
Yeah, does
whole,
that now become, like
is that going to
the
be the drift where it's like, well, you're not a born witch, you're a made witch? Like, you know, you
right?
remember the pandemic in 2022 and everybody turned into a witch? You're one of them. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Like,
crazy.
and does that then create the us and them scenario, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
Willa marrying, the non-witch, or the
Yep.
ordinary male. It's like, yeah, again, does this become, the infighting again
Right.
between
Yeah.
who is more superior, who is,
I mean,
more pure of
I
blood?
mean,
It's
there's
like,
honestly probably not a world where that's the case. Let's be honest. It would be great if it was, but there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be people
yeah,
feeling superior over others, you know. That's,
yeah.
if there was a world that you could put Willa in, like any kind of alternate universe, zombie apocalypse, high school, anything, medical drama, thriller, what would you love to see Willa's character in?
Oh my
Or what is
God.
your favorite like universe to be? Like, what is your dream of like an acting job? Like, you want to play a detective, or like,
I really like kind of actiony things. Like I like I loved the action in this.
that's
And so
awesome.
I like that story and that
Yeah.
action side. It's like I kind of like this just with more action.
More action. Bring
You
it.
know,
Bring more action.
yeah, like I want to do more like
Stunts.
you
That's
know,
awesome. I love that.
stuff. So like I really I like this. I mean it's really nice because you get a little bit of the supernatural, but it's grounded in
It
like
is.
reality.
Yeah.
It is an alternate world, but it's like grounded in, well, it's
It
not,
exists.
yeah.
It's not like,
And
oh,
then
only few people know of the witches that exist. Like, no, everybody knows they're
right.
there. Yeah.
And then there's like that political undercurrent underneath,
Yes.
like driving the decisions, and then you get this action side of it and trying to solve it. I mean, I would like more of this.
More Willa and more action.
Truth be told, yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Like,
have any projects coming up that we can like keep an eye on?
I will tell you that there's a couple of things in the works that we're looking to get going in the spring.
Exciting.
So, and a couple of things that I'm working on with the writers and kind of behind the scenes. So
That's so exciting.
it would be nice to, have all of that go forward in spring. So there's
Yes.
a lot of
Please
things
let
that
us
follow.
know and let me know.
So,
And by that time, if you want to come back and talk about it, I would love to have you back.
oh, that's lovely.
I
That's
mean, like the
appreciate
community
that.
is diehard. We love everybody on this show so much, all these powerful women and that have graced us with their acting. It's amazing. We love you all so much, and we will continue to follow you wherever you go. So
That's
please.
so nice. This has been like such a lovely, inclusive environment.
It's a safe space.
creative. Yeah. And that's the other thing I like, and why I like this world too, is because, you just have so much representation. It just needs to
Oh
go
my God.
up.
That's
And
one of the most
up.
refreshing things. Like, not to get into like personal stuff, but like I'm queer, and this show, just the fact that nobody had to come out was great.
Right?
Like, just that simple fact, out of the whole show, out of all the complicated feelings and relationships, the fact that nobody had to come out and say, "Oh, I'm gay," was
Yeah.
so refreshing. Like, it was normal. There was not a big deal. Like, the sexuality in this show was just so fluid and free. And it was,
It
as
is.
someone who's been in a part of a lot of fandoms, it was so refreshing to have that. Like, it was like, I felt like, and I'm stealing these words from my friend, but like, this show healed a lot of our hearts from previous trauma of shows. Yes, a lot of hearts. Like, it really healed us. It healed the wounds that were left behind by other fandoms and other shows. And so that's another thank you. Also, as you playing the mother of a queer character, and it was just fine. Like, didn't matter. Not a big deal at all. Like, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't like, oh, you got a girlfriend. No, like, it was just, oh,
It
okay.
was more like, you little shithead, why didn't you bring my kid home to me? And that would have been like equal opportunity yelling at whomever.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just
that was
like, I think that was also one of the reasons for a lot of queer audience that were like, oh my God, like, look at this. Like, it's normal. It's fine. Like, it's not like, nobody's like making this whole deal about, oh, I have to come out. Like, just that was like mind blowing to me. And one of the reasons I fell in love with, I mean, first of all, you can't deny the powerhouses of women that are on this show. Like, an almost like mainly female cast was just refreshing and wonderful to see.
And one that really got along. Like, really.
Also, like, but like, yeah. So and I mean, obviously it showed because you cannot, I mean, well, you can because you're all great actors, but like, you can't fake that chemistry. You can't fake that love for each other. And I think that all of you guys really carried, even like with promotion for the show. Like, a lot of the cast really got active on socials. It's like, listen, you need to watch this. You need to watch this. And like, it made us fall in love with the cast and then with the show. And it was just one big community coming together out of love for everything involving Motherland Fort Salem. The writing, the acting, the cast, everybody. Sorry, I'm just gushing because I love this show so much.
Yeah, this is not making my morning at all. No,
this is a horrible way to start your day. I'm so sorry.
This is like, I won't have that on replay 1,000 times.
No, don't.
It's really nice because and I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with you. And one of the questions I got asked at a convention was, was it different playing the mother of, your lesbian kid? And I'm like, didn't even cross my mind. No, Willa's a mother. That's it.
Right. But I think that speaks volumes to who you are as a person, that you didn't, that didn't even cross your mind. Because other people, it might have like, oh, how am I going to play the mother of a queer child? Like, that's scary.
Would not have changed however she identified, whom she loved. It just didn't change what Willa would have, or how, Willa was portrayed. I was just more like, how is Willa not going to be hated? That's what my concern was.
I can tell you right now that there's probably not a soul out there that hates Willa. I think that everybody might have their doubts in the beginning, like,
where is this gonna go? To the writing, that has nothing to do with me. That's all like writers. Thank you.
But I mean, I think it's also the person behind Willa, to be honest. I think everybody kind of fell in love with you as a person, as a as you. I've heard many great things before we start this talk. I've done some of my research. I've talked to some of my friends that have spoken to you before, and they had nothing but lovely things to say about you. And they were like, "You're gonna be fine, Britt. You're gonna be fine. Stop stressing."
No, don't stress.
Still stressed, but I mean, anxiety. So that's
Not with me. Not with
but
me.
it's great. I mean,
it's
it's been wonderful. And I love you. I love everything you do. I will continue to follow you. Anytime you want to come back or want to talk about fan fiction or your future projects, please, you're always welcome. Please just shoot me a DM.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for finding me. And,
oh yeah, that was not hard at all. I found you.
Yeah, and finding my dog. Thank you.
I know, that was perfect. I was like, guys, yeah, your dog is a star on its own.
He's very cute, and I'm terrible. We have to get better. We got to get him his own little PR person for his own little Instagram.
Well, I'm available if you need a PR person.
Yeah, just send you all the pictures.
He can star, and he can star on the podcast, if he wants to. It'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and sincerely, anytime. And thank you for your time. I know you're probably very busy, so I really appreciate you hanging out with me for longer than what we were supposed to.
You're very welcome. Stay safe. Stay well.
I hope that cold goes away.
Yeah, it's there. It's leaving. It's leaving. We've had our nice little snow in Vancouver.
Oh, so yes.
I'm out there playing in the snow with the dogs. So,
awesome. Well, have fun. Enjoy. And I'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe, stay well, and to everybody listening to this, keep creating.
Yes.
Keep creating. That's the fun part of all of this. Absolutely. So enjoy. Continue to amplify each other's voices, amplify the voices that are not heard enough, and in anything that you're doing, and take care of each other.
Thank you so much. You're the best.
Lovely holiday.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.